Hello, friends. Hope everyone is well. I wanted to talk about altered states of perception, learning to live in what the Toltecs refer to as heightened awareness, the benefits of that, the challenges that come with that, um, unlearning, unbinding. There comes a point in your training where you learn or unlearn the program and naturally gravitate toward an older, much more effective means of feeling. Uh, our inventory is very heavy if we're carrying our past with us and all the things that we think we know. So, learning to let go, um, release, allows you to eventually have incredible focus. So, a heightened awareness state is the capacity to observe, feel, and experience things in a much more harmonious way. But it is a state of, it's a fierce state in a sense, like your focus is intense. And so you have to be really light so that you don't get caught in the power of it. You have to remain very humble and in gratitude for everything and everyone. Because everyone is teaching you something. Everyone has a message for you. Whether it's the birds or what people say to you or what you overhear when you walk by. The universe is constantly giving you messages. And if you're in a state of heightened awareness, you're able to pick up on all of these messages, and then it reinforces that heightened awareness because you're listening, you're interested, you're engaged. You've come out of autopilot and um, you're prioritizing a particular feeling to live in, and that feeling is opens up to all kinds of other feelings, and that's all we are. We are a feeling amongst a feeling, like this whole thing. And so that's why shamans focus on um, all of the feelings they've ever had. So when you're recapitulating your life, you're just reviewing everything you've ever felt, and you're reclaiming those feelings, and you're releasing anything that isn't um, supporting your journey to become pure feeling, pure presence. Learning to be in the now uh, makes life feel really long. I've lived a really long life already, and I'm just beginning. Um, feels like lifetimes because of how much change has happened. Because uh, by seeking change, you stop resisting. We fear the unknown, which is change. naturally, because there's great pressure to stay in the program. And so it's very uncomfortable at times to move away from people that are in fear, things that keep you in fear. Even though that fear isn't helping you, it's the known. It's still something you are used to. And so often we're shown that we need to take space from others, but sometimes that's not as easy as we would like it to be, because they are family, or there's just a lot of issues around, you know, putting up boundaries, taking care of yourself. It's not supported in this world. You're expected to work your ass off and, you know, just maintain um, that slave-like mentality as a means to stay um, small, insignificant. And so there's a balance to that. You know, we are small and insignificant. We're not necessary. And yet we're so fortunate to be here. And if our gratitude for that could shift, then that smallness becomes everything. It doesn't matter if you're small or insignificant. You get to observe the miracle of your existence, and therefore you become all that there is by merging with the beauty of this world, by becoming by falling in love with your life. So people start with positive affirmations, and they tell themselves things that make them feel good. But in the background, there's other stuff going on that reinstates the old you and keeps you rooted in the fear-based way of existence. And so it does take some extreme effort, but that effort has to be light. So it's a tricky thing to discover, because if it's all serious and heavy, then you become morbid. And a lot of my teachers did that. Um, they used their desperation and fear of being normal to propel them out of what they consider to be a trap. And in doing so, they disregarded the stages of development that would have been more healthy and holistic to go through. They tried to fast forward things. Um, and that causes a very strange type of repression, because you're skipping aspects of your being and trying to basically put a lid on something that is trying to surface, so that you can tell yourself that you're further along than you are. And then because you believe that, you actually do get further along in certain areas, but you left a part of yourself behind. And so heightened awareness is not something that is discovered by only people that are in harmony. It's a place of power that can be utilized by people who are um, avoiding aspects of their being. So uh, having somebody in your life that can help you see you, so that it's not just you telling you how you're doing. Um, so hopefully you have somebody that yeah, that you work with, or a partner that you've reached really beautiful communication with, and you're both able to witness each other and offer honest feedback without offending each other. And all of that's really takes a lot of work or effort. You have to show up and go through the hard times together in order to create that kind of connection. um, honest Often we are not honest with ourselves, let alone each other. And so that becomes more um, important than heightened awareness. But eventually, heightened awareness is what allows you to move through life unscathed, right? You're protected by your love for perception, in a sense, because you're so um, you're engaged. You've discovered intent that eventually leads to unbending intent, shamanic intent. Shamans have warned that we would need to understand, overstand the the practices that they've been utilizing, that we would reach a point in the energetic developments of this dream where the nature of perception and its potential becomes critical to our survival. So this is happening now. Um, Thankfully, you know, our our love for feelings. Um, we all have feelings from the past that really make us feel incredible longing. Moments in our life where we were really in touch with our most natural self. So for some of us, that's way, way back. Some of us, it's recent. And some of us have only recently had um, happiness, or our childhood was, tragic. Um, but I think often your childhood is pretty, pretty beautiful, and then as we get the weight of the world, we start to become less harmonious. And so it is a tricky thing to provide for yourself and provide for others, but remain childlike, having access to youthful feelings, right? So this is why shamans review their life in the way that they do. They don't sit there and dwell on it. They go back and become aware of every feeling they've ever felt, as a means to know themselves. Because they discover that if they can know themselves, they will develop a relationship with that knows them, which is that which bestows awareness, that which gave us this gift of existence, which is really you, us. We did this, we gave ourselves this opportunity. But by not making use of the opportunity, by remaining distracted by the things that we really don't love, then we create conflict in our being. And I am guilty of this. And it's not a guilt thing. It's just a reality. We are distracted from our power, distracted from um, being engaged. It's like we get put in like a isolated layer of focus, and it's just we want ideally to have a much more expansive um, intensity available to us. So the world is a miracle, and we're caught often experiencing it more like a curse, and or somewhere in between, and our shields are in place for a reason, as I've said. So it's not like you want to try to force this, but you do want to find a way to laugh at it all. lighten your um, lighten your being in every possible way. So it's quite confronting at first when you start to go and make these changes, but I promise by sticking to it, heightened awareness eventually becomes available more and more and more. Eventually you learn to live in heightened awareness all the time, and it's just so much easier on your nervous system. It's so much more effective to be able to still do your job or do whatever it is that you're into without losing your spirit. Because the the slave world is not designed to cater to the evolution of the human spirit. In fact, it's set up as an opportunity for you to discover um, the difference between slavery and servitude. So you can eventually do slave-like things without being a slave whatsoever, just through the way in which you see it, the way in which you interact with the feelings, the way in which you handle and manage your energy, figuring out how to move energy through dance, through release, um, through laughter and joy and celebration and intensity. We take ourselves very seriously. We worry. We project fear into our future. But that's just gonna happen. We eventually will stop doing that when you learn to live in heightened awareness, because it's just not conducive. You're not able to be a conduit if you're worried. So, moving your body, rolling on the ground, earthing, all of all of the things that you know how to do I know it gets intense because when you know how to heal, then you often avoid the thing that will heal you because your shadow is trying to sabotage your development because it wants to be seen and heard. And so all of that's necessary. You can't skip that stuff. But you don't have to fix yourself right away. It's not going to happen like that. You have to accept yourself and all aspects of your being, all that you're going through. Um, I mean, love is a real thing, and if you don't love yourself, it's going to be difficult to fall in love with perception and fall in love with the mother and really have those breakthroughs and healing. Dreaming is everything. Once you understand that this is a dream and that there are other entire dreams that you can access, and even learning to go back into your memories and open those doors is basically dreaming. I've gone back to some of the most difficult memories of my life, and it's just amazing, because all of a sudden I'm paying attention to the woodwork in the home that I was in, and I'm getting to see details of things that I wasn't paying attention to, that my being recorded, but I was in fear and in trauma during the moment, so I missed out on the incredible nature of just the fact that I exist. So even like a haunted house or an experience you had of pure horror is just power. It's just a place to go back and get returned to as a means to reclaim your capacity to perceive. So, but start light. Start with the fun stuff. Start with the light memories. Don't go into the heavy stuff until you've become proficient. Um, but yeah, there are ways to set this all up, right? Reading the Castaneda books, reading Taisha and Florinda's books help with that. You may have read them already, but rereading them and rereading them, they continue to reveal things that you weren't ready to um, to understand. I'm rereading Olga Karatides' books. She also wrote a fictional book that's really powerful that I just read. But she goes by a different name in that. It's Olga Yohanatova. And there's some great secrets in that book. It's a trip. There's some very very few beings in this world who have shared such simple magic. There's a lot of complex magic out there. There's a lot of intense or watered down versions of power that are being shared, and those are stepping stones for people, but eventually, hopefully, people gravitate toward what the new seers of the Toltecs have discovered. We are pure energy. Our body is just energy. It's not physical. But we've manifested to believe that it is so, and therefore it is, and therefore we will die a physical death unless we transcend that. Recapitulating, doing magical passes, learning to utilize the dreaming gates, unlocking gazing. Gazing is a miracle. when you understand that you can become the river, become the tree, merge your perception with all things, it just unlocks everything. You're no longer scared to go work a slave job because you are the slave job. You are the desk, you are the computer. Everyone in your office space or at your job site is a reflection of you and is offering you an opportunity to really know yourself through the reflection that they're offering, and eventually shatter the mirror of self-reflection and you become abstract, like really abstract. And that is where and why and how you end up learning to be a chameleon, a stalker, a being, not a stalker as in you stalk people, but you stalk yourself, you stalk the world. It's referred to as controlled folly. um, both of those terms just sound ridiculous, but there just hasn't, nobody's come up with a better way of explaining this very specific type of behavior. Um, all we are and all we ever will be is everything that we ever felt, thought, longed for. Your essence is your longing, your return to love, which is all there is. When you break free of the projection of the masses. And that's why shamans erase their personal history and create healthy boundaries in their life and start to listen to to their their guides, which is you, right? And there are other guides, but your future self is the one that's really trying to give you insight into what your death reveals, because your future self can give you insight to that. Because your death is what puts everything in perspective. And we're so fortunate to be here and that we get to go through the deathing process in whatever way that happens. So the shamanic death is essentially when you learn to allow your luminosity to move beyond yourself and start to spill out into eternity. But then you carefully breathe it all back in. It's not really breath. It feels like you're breathing, but you're drawing it back in with your will. So this is not something you can fake or try to do until you're ready. And I'm not. I've had a lot of ego death, but I haven't had a shamanic death. Shamanic death is no joke. It's not something that happens accidentally. It happens when you've recapitulated your life. And I mean, everything. You reach what's called the 0 point, in which you are ushered back into a memory so vivid that it is actually real, and you're no longer in the current now. You go back into a previous now, which they're all happening. Your past and your future are happening right now. along with this. And you can journey backward and forward into those current nows, or into the now of that aspect of your linear and non-linear self, right? Because we're both. We are bound by the linear, and yet we are abstract non-linear beings that have been caught and isolated and placed in a linear environment as a means to challenge us to see what we are capable of. And we created that. We invited that in. So there's no one to blame. It's it's a gift. It's a gift of power to be here. And receiving that gift, truly being in a state of gratitude for your life, is a tremendous feeling. There's a lot of pain in the way of being able to have that reception. So unbinding from pain isn't something you can do um, by taking a drug or by going to a hypnotherapist. It's You can get help from others. You can have experiences with a drug or something that opens those doors to that excitement, but it's about being able to do all of this work um, regardless. You know, you make it a priority, uh, but at the same time, we have to be where we're at. We can't pretend that we are that focused, or that we live in heightened awareness, or um, that we are free when we are not. And the beauty of admitting to where you're at is that you stop spinning your wheels, and you stop feeling in your body, in your animal body. Make use of this physical. It's incredible. Um, it's maybe the greatest thing that we achieved, is the manifestation of a physical world. But with that came some challenges, right? So because we manifested a physical world, we now believe it to be the only thing that exists, and therefore we're missing out on so many other aspects of existence. There's a lot of doors to open, but you don't want to end up opening too many doors too fast. So take your time, stop, stop the world, relax. You're gonna be okay. Just let it go. Let go of whatever you think you are and whatever you think you're supposed to do. And listen. Feel. Know. Know yourself. Allow yourself to remember parts of you that are most authentic, and allow that authenticity to change you, to heal you, to reveal you. A lot of people say that they are we are all ascended masters, and um, we are already whole, and that don't let anyone tell you you're not. And it's all empty words. It's all so silly. We are we are all broken, fragmented, wounded beings, even the ones that claim they're not. But why would we want to be anything else? That's exactly what we are. And we're here to heal. That is why we're here. It doesn't mean that you aren't divinely connected and divinely directed and divinely protected. You are. That's why you're here. You're being given this opportunity to do this incredible journey of self discovery, to recapitulate and reclaim all of your luminosity. You are pure sunlight. You come directly from Source. And if you were meant to be whole right away, then you wouldn't go through the trials and tribulations that help you understand the nature of our situation. This is a discovery process. You can't skip the steps or pretend that you're beyond them. You can transcend the world eventually. The physical world. You can become pure energy. Um, but to pretend that you've done that, or to um, avoid your calling, to try to be like somebody else who's claiming to have achieved something that they may not even have achieved but think that they have. I see that a lot. It's just, but there are different syntaxes, and people have different ways of talking, and it all just sort of shows up, in the end, who's really taking care of themselves and who hasn't. And again, there's a lot of people that take such good care of themselves, but they're doing it out of desperation and fear to avoid something, and they're not being honest and actually creating a repression of energy by through that avoidance, and that ends up um, biting them later on. So we just really want to be so honest with ourselves in every stage of our growth, of our unlearning. uh, it starts with surrounding yourself with people and things that make you feel good. So I keep items in my home that remind me of my path. I speak words into my field that intend specific feelings so that they're with me. Eventually, I won't have to do that. I spent years doing shamanic movements as a means to utilize and access energy that doesn't typically get accessed, but I don't have to do that anymore. It just happens naturally. I've made space in my life for that to be, for that to flow, and it's very effective. So it's worth going through what may seem like an uncomfortable process. The unknown is intense and uncomfortable for sure, but it's coming. The unknown, the abstract. It's like replacing this dense, heavy world where we're experiencing that transition, and it's beautiful. It's incredible. We are so fortunate to be in that process, and it's going to be scary for people that are wanting things to be the way they used to be. But for those of us that are seeking change and are embracing the unknown, we're going to have a lot of support. Take care, everyone.